and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to News Talk, coming to you as usual from the great state of Texas, Houston, Texas, to be precise. Thank you for tuning in. Please, if you are joining by way of YouTube, do me the favor, go ahead, hit that bell and hit the subscribe button so you are able to receive notifications every moment that we are coming live. Once more, thank you for tuning in. I will be taking you to Cameroon tonight, and next stop will be in Dakar, Senegal, where a drama is taking place where two formerly head of the political party PASTEF are colliding, and the prime minister is fired and he turns around and is elected the Speaker of the National Assembly. The question becomes, who is wearing much more political power in Senegal? We will provide you with the answers. But first will be the stop in Cameroon, where Cameroon just continues to squeeze with both of its hands, ladies and gentlemen, the peripheries, the local governments, the local administrations. And tonight, I'm going to make a comparison of what happened in France in 1789 with the French Revolution to what has been happening in Cameroon today. And I believe at the end of that talking point, you would have realized that what is going on in Cameroon has far surpassed what happened in France in 1789 before the revolution against Louis XVI. So please stay tuned. When I come back, I will take you into my talking point for the day. I will be right back.
Don't be left behind.
AI is changing everything. Are you ready? Learn AI with live instructors, not pre-recorded videos. Become a certified AI engineer. Position yourself for high-paying global opportunities.
Get internationally accredited certification and real career support.
We help you build your resume and connect you to job opportunities.
Classes have started, but you can still enroll. Enrollment ends on May 29th. Call or text 346-271-0711 to register today.
346-271-0711.
All right, thank you for staying put, ladies and gentlemen, and please go ahead and hit your share button to let others out there know we are live on ABS. Again, I take you to Cameroon, ladies and gentlemen, for what is going on within the regime. What I call the squeezing of the local governments, talking about the mayors. The question is being asked, after what the government, the regime in Yaoundé has done, is there still any need for local councils, for mayors? Just think about that. Because of what use is a local council, a mayor who cannot initiate simple projects like garbage disposal in his town or city? That is the implication of what Yaoundé has done by going down to the local communes, they call it in French, to take control of tax collection. So, how does the local governments function without the ability to come up with budgets that take care of the local needs of the people? Again, we're going to be talking about that, and my panel will be joining me, and we shall be discussing this subject. But I will also be taking you to Senegal, where something interesting, politically interesting, is happening. The divisions between Sonko and Faye, who put on the alliance that beat the incumbent, ladies and gentlemen, and gave Senegalese a hope that now they are fighting against each other. One is fired and he turns around and becomes the president, the speaker, and not become but elected the speaker of the National Assembly. Those are the subjects I will be discussing with my panel tonight, and I hope you will join with your phone calls. So first, I will take you to Cameroon, where I diagnose what is going on there. What is going on there in the La République du Cameroon? What I call a declaration of war. A declaration of war on the councils. A declaration of war on the councils. That is the subject of this monologue, ladies and gentlemen. That is where I am going to start from before we move next to Senegal. All right. There are moments, ladies and gentlemen, in history when a government becomes so arrogant, so disconnected from the suffering of its own people that it begins unknowingly to write the script of its own resistance. France did it in 1789. Cameroon is doing it now. The parallels are no longer symbolic. They are frighteningly real. In 1789, France was a powder keg. The ancient regime under King Louis XVI had become an arrogant, centralized, absolute monarchy, disconnected from the suffering of ordinary people in France. The elite at the Palace of Versailles lived in extravagant luxury, while peasants faced crushing taxes, food shortages, and famine. Taxes were collected ruthlessly by the crown and its agents, with little accountability or return to the regions. Power was hoarded in the capital. The people had no meaningful voice. This systemic injustice exploded with two iconic moments. Number one, the storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, a symbol of royal tyranny, a fortress prison where the king arbitrarily imprisoned critics. The people of Paris attacked it, not just for weapons, but as a direct assault on centralized oppression and unaccountable power. Number two, the March of the Women on Versailles, October 1789. Thousands of market women, fed up with hunger and the elite's indifference, marched to the palace, demanding bread and forcing the king and his family back to Paris under popular pressure. It marked the moment ordinary citizens, especially women, inserted themselves into history. These events were triggered by taxation without representation, elite capture of national wealth, and the refusal of the monarchy to share power or deliver basic services. The Cameroon of today is a sharper version of France in 1789. And yes, in several painful ways, Cameroon in 2026 is arguably worse than France in 1789. Like pre-revolutionary France, Cameroon suffers from extreme centralization in Yaoundé. The regime has built a modern version of Versailles, an insulated political and business elite that extracts resources from the entire country, while regions and municipalities are left to rot. The recent tax grab decision of May 15, where the central regime in Yaoundé stripped mayors and local councils of their tax collection powers and handed everything to the Directorate General of Taxes in Yaoundé is the clearest example of what is happening. In 1789 francs, the king's tax collectors took money and gave very little back. In Cameroon today, local taxes are being completely removed from local hands. Once that money reaches Yaoundé, history and public perception shows most of it disappears into patronage, corruption, luxury, and regime maintenance, rarely returning as functional roads, clean water, working hospitals, or garbage collection. French peasants in 1789 could at least see their local grievances. But in Cameroon, even elected mayors are being deliberately disarmed financially before local elections. This is more sophisticated repression than 1789. It is preemptive sabotage of local democracy. The CPDM regime sees the tsunami of potential losses in councils and is responding by strangling them at the source. The daily reality on the ground makes it worse than 1789 francs in human terms. Consider this: heaps of garbage rotting in Babenda, Douala, Bafoussam, and Yaoundé, many other places where people eat, trade, and live beside filth. Collapsing infrastructure and non-functional local services. A population that has been demanding decentralization, federalism, and independence, especially in the case of the former Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, for years, only to receive more central control. France in 1789 had bred riots. Cameroon has decades of unaddressed structural neglect, plus an ongoing Ambazonia conflict that has already cost tens of thousands of lives. The French king at least pretended to negotiate through the Estates General. Cameroon's regime offers empty rhetoric about decentralization. Why actively reversing it? The new tax grab is not technical. It is political suffocation. It signals to every mayor, every citizen who wants local autonomy, your vote means nothing if we control the money. This is the logic that led French citizens to storm the Bastille. In Cameroon, people are already feeling the same rage, the same sense that the center has declared war on the peripheries, the councils. The women of Paris marched because they could no longer feed their children. In Cameroon, mothers watch their children grow up in cities drowning in garbage and decay, with no local authority in power to fix it. The parallel is strong. The warning: revolutions are born when a regime believes it can endlessly tighten the screw without consequence. France's monarchy learned this the hard way. Cameroon's elite should study that lesson carefully. Stripping local governments of fiscal power while citizens cry out for autonomy is not sustainable governance. It cannot last. It is a kind of arrogance that historically precedes major upheaval. The current situation is a direct invitation to La République du Cameroon citizens for resistance, legal, political, civic, and popular, even if it means picking up the guns and overthrowing the regime. Whether that becomes another Bastille moment or a march on Yaoundé depends on how far the regime is willing to push. Cameroon is not just repeating 1789 in some respects. It is exceeding it in cynicism. The question is whether Cameroonians will respond with the same historic determination as the French citizens did in 1789. And that is my talking point, ladies and gentlemen. I will now bring in my panel for tonight to handle this subject. And I am being joined, I guess, from upstate New York by Professor Ben Aki. Pleasure to have you back here, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anu, for this invitation once more. And thank you for laying the groundwork. I agree with the analysis that you have provided on the situation in Cameroon and also, of course, touching on the situation in Senegal. But this is a very, very dangerous situation for Cameroon that Cameroonians must do something to end it.
All right. Thank you. We're also being joined by Kennedy Ejacha from the state of Maryland. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Comrade Chris. Thank you for having me once more on your program. And again, you did a very phenomenal job in trying to link what happened with the convening of the Estate General on May 5th, 1789 by King Louis XVI of France, and what seems to be happening in Cameroon. But there's just one clarification that I want to make because I heard you, and I know it's
don't be worried. Don't be worried. We will get there. I'm still on the verge of introducing the panel. We will get back there. Also being joined from the state of Maryland by Jocelyn Chakute. If you can centralize your image in camera, please centralize your image in camera. Okay, centralize it. Get it in the middle. Get your image in the middle, please. To your left. To your right. Yes. There you go. That is better. Good to have you back, sir.
Good to have you, Chris.
All right. Again, ladies and gentlemen, let's do justice on this subject. It just appears that the regime in Yaoundé has locked its ears, essentially cutting it to the lamentations of the people out there. For quite many years now, Cameroonians, now forget about Ambazonia for a moment, Cameroonians have been asking for decentralization, which is why in 2019 in their so-called Grand National Dialogue, to which both Kennedy and I believe Ben Aki were there, they proposed what they called regional councils and regional houses of assemblies, regional houses of chiefs, and so on. But today, May 15 to be precise, the regime descended on these local councils and said to them, you no longer have control over the collection of taxes in your communities. Now, you know as I do that these councils depend on these taxes to do simple things like garbage disposal, sanitation as a whole, water maintenance, and you can name the rest. So essentially, these income source having been taken away by Yaoundé, it means the councils are left powerless. They can't do anything, they can't achieve anything, even the salaries for the mayors and the councillors, they have to wait for it to come from Yaoundé. So my question is, how do you operate a council if you can't make a budget because you don't know what is coming to you? You cannot calculate a budget based on what FACOM collects from your municipality because they are not going to give it to you. They are not going to give every dime to you. That is if they do. Let me start with Ben, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for posing that question. Let me first correct on the Grand National Dialogue or the Major National Dialogue you just mentioned. I think my brother there, the Reverend Kennedy Ejacha, was there. He went there for benefit of doubt, but I did not go. I did not go. I did not
Okay.
believe the dialogue was intended to produce anything meaningful, and therefore I told them that I don't see that you're responding to the aspirations of the people. Because prior to that dialogue in 2019, I had told the government in 2017 that you need to immediately implement the decentralization in the constitution completely and start the process of consultation towards a return to federalism so as to deal with the situation that was happening in former Southern Cameroon. Now, let us return to where we are today. I want to say that this regime is on its way out. Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari is the president elect of Cameroon. He's the legitimate president, and believe me or not, actions are ongoing which will ultimately lead to the departure of this regime. So what seems to be happening is that they're trying to prolong their stay in power by a couple of days, by a couple of weeks. So this is, first of all, I think the first point is that the regime is trapped, and because it is trapped, it does one of the things that portrays that it has no intention of ever decentralizing or ever moving towards a federal system of government. And my brothers and sisters from former Southern Cameroons should note that very well. So while they're trapped financially, many of the actions we have undertaken, the people of Cameroon, the team of the president elect, many of those actions that have been undertaken have dried up the money that this regime would have been having right now. It's going to still try to borrow, but things are very, very tough at this particular situation. And the easiest way for them to try to survive a couple of weeks more is to try to go down to the municipalities and take money away from them. Now, of course, you touched the other point that they are probably thinking ahead to say that if we succeed to pacify the people of Cameroon, if we succeed to demonstrate that we can steal an election, we can change the constitution, we can do whatever we want, vous allez faire quoi? If they can demonstrate that Cameroonians are so pacific and they are so peaceful and they are so fatalistic that they cannot rise up to it, then of course you are right that they are already planning ahead that if there's going to be a municipal council election and some opposition parties win some of these councils, they will have to win the councils and be at the mercy of the CPDM cult. It's not a political party, it's a cult. They will be at the mercy of the government in place because for them to do anything in their locality, they will have to petition their centralized structure, which will then be under an imposed president on the people of Cameroon. But God forbid, I think the signs are there. We will have them kicked out, and Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari will take his rightful place as the third president of Cameroon and the first to be elected by the people of Cameroon.
All right, we are going to come back to that point of Issa Chiroma going back because that has become kind of redundant in people's ears that Issa Chiroma is going back. Let me get to Kennedy. So the question remains, what is the essence of local councils, local governments that has no ability for a budget? Should they not just be scrapped? They already have their divisional officers, right? Their gendarmes, their police. The divisional officers who are already paid from Yaounde can run the councils. They don't need a budget. They just sit there and wait for Yaounde. So why should those councils not just be scrapped? Because the mayor has to wait for Yaounde to be paid. And I don't know what they can do at the local level without a budget, sir. What is your thought on this?
Yes, Comrade Chris. Now, let's be clear about this. It's a bad situation in Cameroon that has just gotten worse. So let no one think that we are trying to compare something good that they're trying to spoil. It's already a bad situation.
Yeah.
What's happening in Cameroon is it's almost unique in its genre. And the attempt to decentralize Cameroon, I talk about decentralization, was just a farce. Because at the end of the day, when we look the structure, the governance structure in Cameroon, it's a deconcentration. And when we talk about deconcentration, it's just the same arm that extends itself to the rest of the country, but it's the same arm from Yaoundé. So they are just redeploying themselves in a way that, as Professor Benaki said, in a way that may give them some more survivor. It's a redeployment. It's nothing strange. That's why we keep clamoring for genuine change in Cameroon, genuine decentralization through the mechanism of federalism, because that's when we would get to the point where we would achieve a self-reliance, autodetermination by the people in Cameroon. It's not going to create any impact what has happened with regards to the comparison with the French Revolution, when Louis XVI convened the General Estate on May 5th, 1789. I think that was the date. So those who went in, the clergy, the commoners, were people that were convened to come and talk about the future, were people that were being impacted. But when we see what's happening in Cameroon, most of those mayors, first of all, they are usurpers. Most of those mayors that are there were put by the regime. So they owe everything that they have to the regime. That's why they're not going to budge. We would have expected that they would be the first to come up and condemn this coup d'etat of the local communities, local collectivities in Cameroon. But it's not going to happen, because these are people that the government had put there. So my biggest concern is, what are we going to do, we the people of Cameroon who are being sidelined by this regime? What new strategies do we have that will force the regime to relinquish power? Yes, the regime is on one limb, and it has been on one limb for, I would say, 36 years now, or to be more pragmatic, for 34 years, since 1992, when they lost the elections, and 2018 they lost another election. Just recently, 2025, they've lost another election. They're still there. So this government does not fear election within the context in which Cameroon is operating now. So nothing that they're doing is in calculation of them losing any elections, because they are very sure that whenever they convene the elections, it's still going to be the same thing. But the greatest asset that we have in Cameroon is a popular uprising. If we don't preach popular uprising, there is no other alternative that will bring down this regime, just as there was the uprising during the French Revolution. Now, we should be careful. The regime knows very well what happened. Just as Mr. Chris, you are able to read and analyze the French Revolution, they also have that information. They know what to do. That's why they will never make the error that Louis XVI did. They will never convene an ex-state general in Cameroon, because they know what can happen. They tried it in 2019, and no matter what they say, it was a big mistake for them, because their bad faith has been proven time in and again. So we just have to wake up and not wait and see. Wake up and act, not wait and see. Because if we wait and see, we will see the same thing that has been served to Cameroonians for the past 43 years by the totalitarian regime of Mr. Paul Biya.
All right, stay put in there, comrade. Let me take Jocelyn to the garbage cities of Cameroon. Look at these images, gentlemen. This is Bamenda. This is Bamenda. You are looking at this in the Bamenda. Look at that. Look at the garbage there. Uh, in the city, if you go to Douala, this is Douala now. This is Douala that you find there. Yaounde has no difference, which also you're going to see. That is Yaounde. You can literally see people walking by covering their nose just for the stench of it, and that is still Bamenda Commercial Avenue. Now, we are well aware the reason you have all this garbage all over the country is because the councils cannot afford enough finances to regularly or consistently get rid of this refuse. Yet, instead of giving those councils much leverage to be able to do this, the councils are being essentially bankrupt and taken to Yaounde, leaving them without the ability to be able to clear what you see there. Jocelyn, give me your thought on this. Shouldn't there be a revolution? I mean, even if it is an armed revolution like in Paris, they broke into the Bastille, they carried arms away, they fought the system with it, and they won. Why shouldn't that be happening in La République du Cameroon? Centralize your image, sir. Centralize your image.
Hey, Chris, you're going to have to buy me a computer or a camera, okay?
No, it's not a computer. It is you. How you focus yourself there?
It's me. So every time, you always have difficulty to centralize me. Is it better now?
It's a bit better. We can manage that. Go on, please.
A little bit better. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, everybody who is looking. If my image is not quite centralized, I apologize for that. I'm not very versed into these technologies. But, hey, Chris, there are a couple of things that I wanted to point out. One, this is a beleaguered regime. Okay, like we say in French, un régime aux abois, meaning they want to have as much money as they can. If they see a penny on the floor, they're going to bend and pick it up. So they need the money. So that's number one thing. Number two thing, I wanted, you should have maybe explained a little bit the mechanism that they put in place to collect those taxes. The mechanism. I understand that the FECOM and the centralized government in Yaounde will not actually send people on the ground to collect the taxes.
No, you are correct. You are correct. But let me make this.
Okay. No, let me then land. Let me tell you where I'm going with that. Okay. So they're not going to send. Yeah, they're not going to send people on the ground to collect the taxes. So what does that mean? That means that it's the local government that will be collecting the taxes.
No. You make a mistake there. You make a mistake there. You are correct. They are not sending people from Yaounde to go to Bafut, to go to Chang and collect taxes. However, you know that the declaration that came out was a joint declaration from Motaze, the Ministry of Finance, and the guy and the Ministry of so-called Decentralization. It was a joint communique. Now, what that means is that both of these ministries have their subdivisional or they have their sub-delegations in each council. They are going to mandate each sub-delegation in each council to do the collection, and the mayors and the councillors will just sit and watch. It's not as if the mayors and the councillors are going to collect it and send to Yaounde. No, their sub-divisional delegations are going to do the collection. So indirectly, they are doing the collection.
Okay, let's even suppose that they are doing the collection indirectly. What I'm telling you is that I'm not trying to defend anybody, okay? But what I understand is that the local government, that is the mayor, will still be involved because they're going to provide the database of the people who are doing what in the city. Are you at least agree with me on that one? Do you agree? Yes. Because the mayor has the database.
Yes, of course. The mayor will provide the database so they know where to go to collect the taxes, right?
Exactly. And because of that reason, the mayor will have a part of the action. What I'm getting at is at the end of the day, there's going to be a double taxation. Double taxation means that the government from Yaoundé, either by the Minister of Decentralization or by the Minister of Finance or whoever and his cohort, they will come and then collect the taxes. And the local government, why? Because they provide the database, because they provide the infrastructure, they will also have their part of the money there. They will also collect their own. That's exactly how it's going to work. And if that happens, then it's going to be double taxation, which is okay with the government of Cameroon. Okay, they're going to tax the poor people twice. Now the real question is, who are we targeting in that process? You see, before we get to the Bastille Day, we got to the Bastille Day because it actually hit the people. It actually it came home, like they say, right?
Okay.
So it came home and people felt it in their bones, right?
Yeah.
So in Cameroon also, we have to wait until we see who are the people who are going to targeted in that double taxation. And
But
when we see
have
those
you any
people,
doubt who is targeted? The
oh, no,
people.
I have no doubt. Well, yeah, but don't just say in general it's going to be the people of Cameroon. Yes, but you have to dissect it a little bit further. You have to analyze it a little further. Yes, the people of Cameroon will be double taxed. That's okay. I understand that. That is what's going to happen. But what category, which group of people among the people of Cameroon will be targeted? And those are the people that we need to look at, and we need to see how much pressure they can sustain before we come to the Bastille Day. We need to see how much they can receive, how much pressure they can get when they will be double taxed before we come to the breaking point. That's the question that you need to ask. That's the analysis that you need to do.
Well,
Because when they
I am a bit taken aback that you still think that the Bastille Day for Cameroon should still hold on. The pressure is not yet enough to that level. So it means all that has been going on for all these years with rigged elections and high taxes, prices high up there, gas high up there. This is not enough to take the people to act, to defend their freedoms and their rights and to ask for a better living?
It is enough. Actually, they should. Actually, they should. From today, they should actually. I mean, they had so many occasions, and we talked about it in the past. The election that have been stolen, and people that were qualified to run for president, they were thrown apart, and so on and so forth. They had so many ways to come to the breaking point. But let's not just be very sentimental about it, and let's talk about it very analytically. What I'm saying, what I'm asking you to analyze is this point here. Say they are going to be double taxed. We agree on that, meaning that the family will not take home as much money as they could. So that means if I have 1,000 francs CFA, the government will take 150, and then the city will take 50. That will be 200. That will take away. All right. But I'm asking you for the third time, who are the people? What is the category? What is the group of people who is going to be targeted in the first place? Is it going to be the functionaries, people working in offices at the BICIC or maybe in the government on Yaoundé? Are they going to feel it? Or is it going to be the buy and sell and mother who sell tomatoes on the market and who has to pay a ticket for the government and then another ticket for the city? So those are the people that we need to focus on, because if those people feel it to their bones, those are the people that we need to be looking at.
Well, that's exactly the people, and I think everybody on the panel agrees with that. Ben, do you agree with Jocelyn?
Well, I think Jocelyn is a little bit out of touch with what is happening now in Cameroon. The Reverend Kennedy Jacha knows that we have this Council for the Sovereignty of Cameroon. We have been meeting every Sunday since the 9th of November. And our goal is simple: to enforce the will of the people as expressed on October 12th. We are working in collaboration with the president elect. We're representing the people. We're organizing the people on the ground. Their actions, some of the actions we can talk about, some you will only know them when they will be carried out. And we have started now this casserole concept. It was paused a little bit, but we revitalized it from last week. This Saturday is going to continue. In a couple of weeks, we will add more layers of things there. This is what we as activists, I'm speaking as an activist, as a member of the Council for the Sovereignty of Cameroon, we believe that our sovereignty is taken hostage, and we will reclaim that sovereignty first by enforcing the will of the people as expressed on the 12th of October. If we're talking and distracting ourselves to focus on the secondary issues, we will not really get there. So it's useful for us to cut to the chase and understand that these people are trapped. They cannot get money from international sources as much as they would want. There are still some international lenders who are still giving them money, but they are trapped. They don't have the money. There was a newspaper title the other day saying that the government is trying to borrow about 7.8 trillion francs CFA for this year. They're trying to mobilize that money. The work of the Council for the Sovereignty of Cameroon is to make it clear to anybody who is giving money to that government that they are lending the money to a party, not to the state of Cameroon. And we're going to fight it. We're going to fight because the government of Cameroon is going to use falsify economic data to present that they are credit worthy. And they are not. They are not. The councils are struggling. The government itself is struggling. And then our brother is saying that let's first ask the question, who are the people who will be affected by this before we can know how to mobilize from there? Everybody who depends on a good route to go from farm to work, from the market to their home, they are affected by that because the money that is supposed to be used by the council locally to fill the gutter, to replace a bridge, a small bridge that is here, they will not be able to do that. So immediately the people are impacted. It is up to us. It is up to us, the activists, to help the people to connect the dots, to see that the fact that your teachers, there are fewer teachers in the school your children are going to, the fact that there are fewer nurses in the hospital you're going to, the fact that there are other things that are going on in your locality that would normally have been helped by the council before the government comes in to help. They are not going to be available there. So let's not go to any secondary analysis of what is going on in Cameroon. Cameroon is facing an electoral suspense. The legitimate president is not the one carrying out the duties, and the usurper has even tried to tweak the constitution to eliminate the people from a process of power transfer. That's where the fight is. And we are saying that this usurpation of the power of the council is only additional to this crime, which must be punished by the complete and total eviction of the Biya regime from the institutions of Cameroon. Our institutions have to be liberated from these usurpers, election thieves, and oil money thieves. They steal everything. At this point, we should not be dividing the people of Cameroon to prevent them from coalescing to that tsunami which we need to carry these people away.
I hear you. I hear you. However, the prospects that Issa Chiroma is going back to take over the reins of power, those prospects are very, very slim. And in a situation like this one, you have to be thinking of immediate solutions. Mr. Kennedy, put Issa Chiroma aside. How will you be looking for immediate solutions to this tax grab that we see coming from Yaoundé?
Yes, I think the immediate solution to this tax grab is a massive uprising of Cameroonians, those who will be affected. And just to respond to my brother Jocelyn, in terms of if he was still doubting who are those that are being impacted by this measure that the government is putting in place, it's every Cameroonian, because at all level the commoners will feel it in their pocketbooks what's going on with the taxation. So the children that are going to school that will not have that adequate resources because the parents' pocketbook is being affected would be impacted. The Biya Selam, who would be harassed by the deconcentrated members of the regime that will be coming after them to collect that money, will be affected. And I think, Chris, I know you put it right, and it aligns back to what I had said earlier. There should be no doubt as to who is going to collect this money, even if Yaounde is saying that they are not going to send people. Yaounde is present everywhere in Cameroon through its deconcentrated authorities, not even delegated. There is no delegation of power in Cameroon. It is a deconcentration. And I say again, that's what I learned in day one when I went to the law faculty in Yaounde. When we talk about deconcentration, it is the same person that is implementing the rule, but has just extended the arm of the hammer. It is the same hammer that is hitting Cameroonians, the same hand that is being used, but with an extension of that arm. So when they say that they will not send somebody, it is just blindfolding Cameroonians, so that we start having secondary conversations, as Professor Aki says, that let's get out of that mentality of allowing the regime to set the tone of the conversation that we have to have. Because now it seems like we would move to have a conversation around who is going to collect that money. Just because the regime has said that they're not sending somebody, they will not send people from Yaounde. And then we start having that conversation. Now, the regime already have people that they have appointed from Yaounde who are there to implement the instructions from Yaounde. And you have those people from the divisional officer, the senior divisional officer, the governor, even the district officer. So Cameroon is very atypical in its way. They say they want decentralization. They say they want what you call it. But at the same time, you are having these administrative authorities that were appointed. What is their role? You have a mayor, like in my village in Gi. There is a mayor and there's a Dio. What's the role of the Dio when the mayor is there? What's really the role of the Dio? If it's not to nag the people and to tell them that, oh, it's Paul Biya that has appointed me here. Or on 20th May, when he sits, he says, and it's clear, they say it. Why should we doubt them? Let's believe them when they say it. When they say that I am Paul Biya here. So anybody that does not respect me is disrespecting Paul Biya. That is the mentality of deconcentration, not even decentralization. Cameroon has not even gotten to anywhere close to decentralization, because when we talk about decentralization, there is an effective devolution of power from the central administration to the local administration, local authorities. There's that devolution of some competencies, but there's no real competency that has been developed. Now, what they had as a little leverage was that part of the taxes that they collected and kept theirs, because that was the leverage that they had. That, okay, you collect the taxes, you know what should be yours, you just keep it and send to us what is our portion. Now, the worst even is with the southern Cameroonians, mainly the northwest and the southwest. How are we going to deal this? So, will they be affected in the same manner as the 8 other regions with this new law? Because this law comes to squash anything that could have been an imaginary special status even. Because the only leg on which the special status was standing was that aspect that they say, okay, you can collect your money at the local level, keep your portion, and then send us. But now that Yaounde is going to take back all that money and then redistribute, we will go back to the level of redistribution. That has been a very critical problem in terms of maintaining the national cohesion of Cameroonians because of all these white collar thieves in Yaoundé. Because it's not even corruption that's going on, it's thievery. Thievery, c'est sont les bandits, as they will say in French. Because corruption, even again, there's some technicalities in corruption. There is some restraint in corruption because you have to convince somebody to corrupt him. But at this point, they don't even convince Cameroonian. They just steal. Like at gunpoint, they say, give it to me, even when you don't want to give. Because with corruption, the person that you corrupt tacitly agrees to it somehow because you've convinced them in a certain way. But in Cameroon, that's not it. Those guys in Yaoundé, those thieves in Yaoundé, they don't care. And then now they are the ones that are going to collect our money entirely. This regime, it's even on a half leg. It's a wall that is rotten, that everything should be done to push it down. And this is the time. So we have to support every effort. I mean, I'm a little bit excited now with what's happening, even the conversation that you have from Issa Chiroma's camp. There's some sort of genuineness to it that I had not seen in the days of Camto Maurice. I had not seen that genuineness, that effervescence that is there. And I give respect to those who, it's true. They might say it's a pipe dream, but it's a dream, nonetheless. So if we can help them and to enlarge the pipe to a tunnel so we can see the end of the tunnel, so be it. But at the end of the day, there is some genuine conversation that's going. We just hope that this the Chiroma team learn from the Camptos team its inadequacies, then we make correction and mobilize the Cameroonians. So let's not just have talk, because 8 years from now, 7 years or 5 years from now, we would have to go back to the drawing table. But I don't wish that to the Cameroonians, that we can say again that 5 years from now, we would still have to be dealing with this regime. Because every one day that goes on with this regime there in Yaoundé, it's a nightmare. So to wish Cameroonians even 1 year under this regime, it's to be heartless, and I don't want to be heartless.
Let me direct this question to both Ben and Jocelyn. You have parliamentarians, senators, mayors, councillors, civil society activists in that country. Isn't this the moment that these institutions should step out and say, you know what? Because think about it, these chiefs, when budget meant for development is taken away from their communities, they got nothing to show. The same thing with the senators, the parliamentarians, the mayors. Isn't this the time they stand up to the same government and say, no, you've done every other thing, but this one is a no-go area? Do you see them doing that, Ben? No, let me go with Jocelyn first. Ben, Jocelyn.
Well, Chris, we had many of those opportunities many years ago, and we didn't move on that. See, that's the thing. Because if you asking that question today, we have parliamentarian chief and mayors and everything. They should have stood up on the floor of the parliament and say, do not declare war on your own people. 10 years ago. They should have stood up when Abu Bala was going to, I don't know his name, on the floor of the parliament and giving his speech in the floor of the parliament. Everybody should have rose in that parliament and said, no, we cannot accept that. That you draw your military on people demonstrating with La Branche d'Olive in Bamenda, but they didn't. So you're asking the question too late, Chris. See, that's you just doing movie acting. Because if you asking that question, we asked that question many years ago, several times. So there's no point to say that again here. There's no point. And let me tell you one thing. What I'm trying to stress here is that we are analysts. We're trying to, and don't tell me that I am disconnected with Cameroon, because I'm showing you that I am connected with Cameroon. Okay. So what we should do as analysts here is to understand what is the breaking point, because if I understand correctly, the question on this table tonight here was to find out what is the breaking point. What will take the Cameroonian to rise as one person and go like the French to the Bastille Day? If I understand, that was the question, right? So that's the question, okay? And then, and to answer that question, I simply say that we had so many occasions to do that. We had, the people killing people in Bamenda. We had Kamto being denied to run. We had this and this, so many things. We had John Fruny action, la grève de la faim, I mean, in 2009 or 2010. So we had those people. Those people were gathering. John Frundi put them together, say, let's go and do something about it. The people rose as one, but they didn't do it. So we are trying to analyze here very coldly, very calmly, and we're not going to talk about Chiroma this and everything else. No, that's not the point tonight here. We're trying to analyze very calmly what would take the Cameroonian to rise as one person and do something about their situation. That's the question. That's the question on the table. And to that analysis, I'm saying simply that they are going to face double taxation, meaning that the ability to purchase goods in the market is going to be diminished. So the question is, who is going to feel the brunt of that pressure? And because I'm telling you, this is a great, and I'm telling you, because if some people say, well, I'm still getting my paycheck, I don't have any income tax coming out of it, I'm going to pay whatever the things here, I don't care. So if that's the case, if we can determine that a small majority, 20 or 30 or even 40% of the people will not be affected, then we're going to say, it's not going to work. That's what we're trying to analyze here.
Do you see, Jocelyn, if I may ask you, do you see any role that Issa Chiroma campaign can play here?
Any role that what, please?
That Chiroma and his campaign can play?
No, we're not talking about that here. No, I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but Chiroma is not very important at this stage here. He's not. He's not. There are not many people following him.
Many people agree with Jocelyn that Chiroma may not be very critical at this stage because he has not been there.
Say?
Did you get me?
Once more. Your question. What's your question?
The question is, I think that many people agree with Jocelyn that at this moment, relying on Chiroma may not be realistic, considering that he has not been there. He has not provided any leadership for all this time.
No, Chris, wait. This is what is happening. First of all, I would like to correct Jocelyn. He is here as an analyst. I'm not here as an analyst. I'm an activist. I'm a political activist. When I come here, I say things happening on the ground. I'm trying to get to the point of saying, this is what we are doing, this is what we should be doing, this is what we should go out and do. Cameroonians are fond of analysts, especially our brothers from east of the Mongo. All they do is analysis. I don't do analysis. I'm a political activist. So let's get that point clear. Then a second point I will come, I really want to thank my brother, Reverend Kennedy Ijacha. He's very critical of the political leaders in Cameroon. He's critical of Kamto, he's critical of Chiroma. But he is able to see when things are being aligned in a way that will move the Cameroonian people in the right place. And here we have somebody who has the guts to call the legitimate president of the country of Cameroon a nobody. How dare you? How dare you? These are the people who are lying.
Are you referring to Jocelyn?
Yes.
Okay.
I cannot be on a platform where somebody belittles the president, the legitimate president of the country of Cameroon, while the people of Cameroon are fighting for their sovereignty. And then you sit here and say, this is not the question for tonight. Everything is connected. Everything is connected in Cameroon. It's connected with the fact that elections are stolen. It's connected with the fact that constitutions are manipulated. It's connected with the fact that the laws are not applied because we have thieves in office. When we have a chance to bring the people together, you have asked the question to him whether Chiroma has a role to play in the situation now in Cameroon. I was waiting very keenly to hear what my brother was going to say. He did not disappoint my earlier diagnosis that he was effectively playing the game on the side of the regime. Whether he knows it or he does not know it does not matter. But that's what he's doing. Right now, Mr. Chiroma is the president-elect of Cameroon. He has enormous mobilizing power. And that's why I work with him. That's why the Council for the Sovereignty of Cameroon is working with him. Here is our simple analysis, Chris. We say on the 12th of October, the people of Cameroon who are sovereign, they went to the polls. We can forget about the issues that happened before then, but they went to the polls. Mr. Kamto was part of that sovereign. They went to the poll and voted. There is absolutely no doubt that Mr. Chiroma is the winner of that election. That's clear. Now, at this particular point, I have made the point that even if Chiroma does absolutely nothing, it is the character of the people of Cameroon that is on trial. Will you sit down after having expressed your will as the sovereign of Cameroon? Will you sit down and wait for an election thief to take the country captive and manipulate the constitution and eliminate the people from the process of power transfer? Will you sit down and do that? It is a judgment on all of us who call ourselves Cameroonians. It's not about Chiroma at that point. And if Chiroma offers even to speak out, even to support actions that are carried out by the people, we ought to be grateful and we ought to integrate that into our methods. And if you come here and pretty much just ignore the will of the people of Cameroon, what else are we analyzing? We are analyzing distractions. I don't do distractions. I don't do distractions. I want everything that is going to merge together as a river and carry these criminals away from our institutions.
Ben, if I may ask you, if Maurice Kamto were to stand up to what we are talking about here and say to the regime, over my dead body, this is not going to happen. We will, initiate a grassroots revolution to storm La République in Yaoundé over these issues. Would you support him?
Yes, he voted on the 12th of October. And if he gets the regime out, we will thank him for all his contribution. And we will say, where is the president-elect that we elected? Because this is the point. If Mr. Chiroma, if Mr. Kamto, let's start with Mr. Kamto. If Mr. Kamto accepts that the outcome of the election on the 12th of October is now behind us, it has been decided that Biya is the president, then he must accept that Biya has changed the constitution to eliminate election from the process of power transfer. If he wants to protest that, then his protest is a lot weaker. Now, of course, he's a lawyer. I can imagine that he will have an argument and say, I'll help you, we'll kick out the regime. We will say that the new constitution is not valid. We go back to the constitution, which was before that, to say that we'll put an interim president, and then we'll go ahead and organize an election. because I believe that Kamto is not going to ask for a radical revolution where he says everything is suspended, all laws are suspended, we start from zero. He is too smart to do that. He has the option. He has the option either to reject Mr. Biya's election. If he rejects Mr. Biya's election and says Biya is not the president of the country, by virtue of him losing the election on 12th of October, then he must accept the outcome of that election because he voted in that election. It doesn't matter how he voted.
All
He
right.
voted, he participated in an exercise, and the outcome of that exercise needs to be enforced by the people of Cameroon. And Kamto himself was called the president-elect all throughout the 7 years Biya was in power. Right now, Chiroma is the president-elect. So if you get rid of the usurper from power, logically, you have to proceed to put in place the president-elect, who is the legitimate president. And with him, many Cameroonians are out of the country. They cannot go back to the country because they are afraid of going to prison simply for doing the right thing, doing their civic
All right.
duty. The Constitution
Let
of
me
Cameroon.
give Jocelyn the last thought on this subject, and then we'll move to the next one.
Maybe I'll have something to say to Chris.
Well, yeah,
Okay. Yes, Jocelyn.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. But I just wanted to raise a couple of points here. We are talking here like gentlemen. We're talking here like people who have the most concern about Cameroon and the threats and the labeling of the quartier, like we say in French quarters, meaning that this very very low level of discussion to be giving names and to be labeling people and things like that. So we are not. We are here much higher than that. We are here at a much higher level. We are analyzing. We're not throwing names here. So question like who are you to do this? Those are things that people in the Pol Pot regime in Haiti do to scare people. As soon as you walk on the left side of the road, oh, who are you to walk on the left side of the road? As soon as you wear a white shirt, oh, who are you to do this? Why don't you wear Paul Biya's shirt? Because if you don't wear Paul Biya's shirt, then there's this. So that's what they do in dictatorial regimes. Who are you? Why don't you do this? Because everybody does that. So Chiroma can be the president-elect, but there could be one person, a singleton, who can say, I don't agree with Chiroma. So that's acceptable. That's mathematics. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, having said that again, the point that I was trying to make tonight is that we all agree that the regime in Yaoundé is not the right regime, that Cameroon deserves better. We all agree that they've been in power for too long, that Cameroon deserves better. I, for one, can do that. And I have more scars on my skin than all of you combined to show that I've been in that fight and I've been in that struggle. And again, I have more scars on my skin than all of you combined.
I don't think so.
There's nobody. Well, okay, fine. So
anyways.
it's okay. Okay, go on anyways. So the point is, we want the regime to go. And tonight was not talking about the regime. We were invited here to talk about what I call the double taxation. Cameroonians will be very, very unfortunate because they're going to receive the money that the family take home is going to be diminished, and we're very, very sorry about that. And the question that Chris raised was, is it going to take us to the brink? Is it going to take the Cameroonian to a point where they're going to say enough is enough? I'm making my money, but then the government is taking all my money. I've had enough. It is time for me to stop here. That was the question. And my answer to that is, I do not know. We're going to have to wait and see who is directly affected with that double taxation and how it's going to play out. As simple as that. That doesn't mean that I'm not I am supporting the double taxation. Please, it doesn't mean that at all. I'm just coldly looking at the facts and analyzing it. That's all.
All right, Kennedy, please.
Yes, I mean, I clearly understand the concerns that are being raised by my brother Jocelyn. And when it comes to Professor Benaki, I also understand his passion, his enthusiasm, and where he's coming from. Because now, the goal of the regime in rigging the elections of October was that very soon people will forget about it. They'll forget who the winner was. And then they'll go back to business as usual. So, in as much as we want to move on, but if we can act differently this time, if we can give to the government the contrary of their expectation, I would like that. Just the fact that Chiroma and his team, and that's where they amaze me, because they are holding on to the fact that they won the elections and they are working and they're planning and they're preparing. Just that messaging in itself helps to galvanize people, and it helps to play in the psychic of Cameroonian that, okay, it's not just business as usual, that there's some serious people who recognize that they won an election, and if Chiroma is not in Yaoundé, it's because of the regime. It's because of what the regime is doing to all of us. And the hope is that he goes back to Cameroon and then take his seat. I hope that for him, because though he seems to be serious about it, but previously, and I'm very analytical, as Professor Aki said, I'm critical of Chiroma and as well as I'm critical of Kamto, but I want to see genuineness. If we go back to 2018, at this time in 2018, the struggle for the elected president had shifted grounds. It wasn't as firm as it is now from the person who was supposed to be the elected president. I remember on the 19th of November, in a massive rally in Douala, the person that had just been plebiscited a couple of weeks will be the one to tell people to not demonstrate without authorization. It's there in record. The video is there. Just weeks after you declare, people come out, and the language of the regime is that people should not demonstrate without authorization. And you tell those people not to demonstrate. That was the biggest demobilization that occurred. So some people did not capture that moment. I captured that moment, and it carried me throughout the 7 years before the October 2025 elections. That's why many people do not understand my radical stance in terms of I don't believe in this. But I'm looking at Chiroma right now. Across the board, you see the people, you see consistency, you see seriousness, even from Chiroma himself. If he's faking it, then he's faking it in a very scientific way. I give it to him. It means he has played over my intelligence. So that's why we say it is still possible that the windfall of the October 2025 election becomes a reality. That's the only legitimate ground that we have to actually contest the regime of Mr. Paul Biya. That's the only legitimate ground. That's it. Beyond 2025, we got nothing else, because everything that preceded 2025 was swallowed in 2025.
Don't be left behind.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, stay put in there. When we come back, I will take you to Senegal. You already know what is happening in Senegal. Let's have some conversation on that subject. Stay put, please.
Don't be left behind.
AI is changing everything. Are you ready? Learn AI with live instructors, not pre-recorded videos. Become a certified AI engineer. Position yourself for high-paying global opportunities.
Get internationally accredited certification and real career support.
We help you build your resume and connect you to job opportunities.
Classes have started, but you can still enroll. Enrollment ends on May 29th. Call or text 346-271-0711 to register today.
346-271-0711.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying put. At this moment, I am taking you to a developing story in Senegal, where the president recently sacked his prime minister, and in what people have described as a mistaken action. The prime minister went ahead and was appointed the president or the speaker of the National Assembly. Let us have some analysis here on what is going on in Dakar, Senegal, between these two leaders. Senegal is witnessing one of the most dramatic political reversals in modern West African politics. A stunning fallout between President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and his longtime ally Ousmane Sonko. A split that is rapidly reshaping the balance of power in Dakar. What began as simmering tensions inside Senegal's ruling PATEF movement has now exploded into open institutional rivalry. President Faye's decision last week to fire Sonko as prime minister and dissolve the government was supposed to consolidate presidential authority. Instead, it may have handed Sonko an even more dangerous political weapon, that is, control of parliament itself. The roots of the conflict had been building for months, though Faye and Sonko rose to power together in 2024 as symbols of anti-establishment change. The relationship increasingly deteriorated over economic management, debt restructuring, IMF negotiations, political funds, and growing suspicions about ambitions for the 2029 presidential race. Sonko, more radical, nationalist, and confrontational in style, reportedly grew frustrated with what many in PATEF view as Faye's more cautious and technocratic approach to governance. The breaking point came amid Senegal's worsening debt crisis. International lenders, especially the International Monetary Fund, were demanding reforms after revelations that Senegal's debt burden was far higher than previously disclosed. Sonko openly criticized approaches associated with International Monetary Fund-backed restructuring, while Faye appeared increasingly inclined towards economic moderation and investor reassurance. What has shocked many Senegalese observers is not merely the firing itself, but what happened after. Within days of being dismissed, Sonko maneuvered himself into the position of Speaker of the National Assembly after the previous Speaker stepped aside, as if it was an arrangement. Backed by PATEF's parliamentary majority and his still enormous popularity inside the party base, Sonko was elected Speaker in what many analysts now view as a direct counterattack against the presidency. And this is where the political calculation may have backfired spectacularly for Faye. In many African political systems, the Prime Minister can be dismissed or sacked relatively easily by the President. But the Speaker of Parliament occupies a far more strategic institutional position. As Speaker, Sonko now sits at the gate of Senegal's legislative machinery. No major legislative agenda, reform package, political oversight process, or parliamentary initiative can move smoothly without his influence or approval. Parliament controls hearings. They control investigations, scrutiny of government actions, and legislative timing. In practical political terms, Sonko may now wield more disruptive leverage than he ever possessed as Prime Minister. Instead of neutralizing him, Faye may have elevated him into the institutional center of Senegalese politics. This is why Senegal's current situation is so extraordinary. The same ruling party now effectively controls both government and opposition pressure from within itself. PATEF movement governs the presidency, while simultaneously positioning its most charismatic figure as parliamentary counterweight to that same presidency. The deeper danger for Faye is political legitimacy. Sonko remains the emotional and ideological heart of the PATEF movement. Many supporters still view him as a true architect of Senegal's political uprising against former President Macky Sall. Remember, it was Sonko's disqualification and imprisonment that forced PATEF or the PATEF party to present Faye as the alternative presidential candidate in 2024. In the minds of many grassroots supporters in Senegal, Sonko remains the movement or the party's spiritual leader. That means every disagreement between the presidency and parliament could now become a public test of loyalty inside the PATEF party itself. Will lawmakers obey Faye, or will they rally around Sonko? That question now hangs heavily over Dakar. Sonko has popularly tried to downplay fears of revenge politics, insisting parliament will not become a weapon against the presidency. But few observers believe the rivalry is truly over. His election as Speaker is widely interpreted as a warning shot, proof that he still commands the movement's or party's political machinery and grassroots loyalty. For Senegal, the implications are enormous. The country is already battling inflation, debt pressure, investor anxiety, and rising social expectations after PATEF's historic rise to power. Political paralysis or institutional warfare between the presidency and parliament could destabilize reform efforts and shake confidence in what was once viewed as one of Africa's most stable democracies. What makes this story so remarkable, ladies and gentlemen, is that Senegal's crisis is not being driven by opposition parties. It is being driven by two men who once stood shoulder to shoulder against the old order and who now appear headed towards a dangerous struggle for the future direction of the Senegalese state. The irony may ultimately be brutal for Faye. In trying to weaken Sonko, he may have accidentally transformed him into the single most powerful political actor in Senegal. And that is my talking point there. Let me bring back my panel for tonight. Ben, let me start with you here. You've been following these developments in Senegal, I guess, and what do you make of what is happening there? These are two fellows who came together like brother and brother, and shook the country, drove out the old order, took over power, and Senegalese were rejoicing, and now the fight is now between the two of them. The same party, the same leadership. Do you think that Faye made a mistake by firing Sonko as prime minister?
No. Chris, no, I think he did the right thing. I think this is also a testament to the maturity of the Senegalese political structure. You remember that Macky Sall himself was the prime minister of Abdoulaye Wade, and he became president by opposing Abdoulaye Wade, who was trying to get a third term. So this is the standard practice that happens now in Senegal. I think that this is to the benefit of them. Let me just give you my understanding of the situation. I think that Diomaye Faye is doing what Senegal needs to be doing at this particular moment, and Sonko is a little bit more activist, and he's providing the kind of counter weight which will be useful for Diomaye Faye to negotiate with IMF or to negotiate even with investors. And my understanding is that the new person who is coming as the prime minister is more technocratic and more aligned with the president. He is from the Central Bank of West Africa, the colonial franc bank out there. But so he has experience as an economist and banker, and he is positioned in this situation to help Senegal. Because, Chris, let us keep in perspective what is happening. Before the election, the government of Macky Sall said the tax to GDP ratio of Senegal was about 74%. But after the new government came to power, they carried out an audit, and the audit revealed that the tax to GDP ratio of Senegal is actually about 132%. That means higher than the GDP of the country, which caused the IMF to freeze a loan, to freeze part of the money that they were supposed already to be using. They have already budgeted that for some particular uses, servicing other debts and doing other things. So 1.8 billion is being withheld by IMF to say, I gave you this money on assumption that your economy was better. Now I know better that your economy is not that great. Tell me what you're going to do to make it become healthy again. So that's where the solution seems to be diverging. And just for the perspective, Senegal, the tax to GDP ratio is about 20%, which is already very high for an African country, where the average is about 16%. Cameroon is about 14%. Nigeria is very low, about 6%. So that's already stretching the people, the ordinary people, in terms of taxes. But there are some divergences. Sonko is privileging borrowing from the South, China, maybe Brazil and other countries. But he is open to defaulting on the loan. And this is more reckless, because if you default on the loan, you may not even get a loan from China. And that's where Diomaye Faye comes across as a more level-headed, pragmatic person. I am not very much a fan of radical revolution, because they never really last. What you need is pragmatic, step-by-step processes to reform the state. So what is happening, my understanding is that Sonko has solutions which sound good if you are emotional and you want to get rid of any imperialistic connections that you have. You're carried away by what he's saying. But how you apply that is not exactly easy. And I just want to recall that Diomaye Faye had already said he wants to calm down the country within these 5 years. And then in the next election, he will be the campaign manager for Sonko. He's going to hand the power over to Sonko. It's not like something that he has not said publicly. But what he did want was to be allowed to use his judgment to deal with the unexpected circumstances which could not allow them to implement the blueprint that they came into office with. They assumed also the data that was given by the government of Macky Sall. So my understanding is that Senegal is positioned now with a president who is level-headed and pragmatic, facing certain problems, with a prime minister who has a banking experience and has the kind of credibility that he can go and negotiate with these countries and calm down investors, calm down global companies not to run away because they will feel like things are going to go very radical here. You need that to calm down. And then finally, you have Sonko as the Speaker of Parliament. He's an activist. He can provide that kind of counterweight from the Parliament. But insofar as he puts the people of Senegal ahead, they will arrive at something that is more mutual. What is that thing that I see mutual? They will still go back to IMF. That's number one. And then number two, they'll find some compromise on who is going to be taxed more, who's going to be taxed less, in order to bring up the money that IMF wants to see in the government revenue to be assured that they will be.
Let me pose this question to Jocelyn. Yes, as Ben has said, Faye may have appointed a smarter prime minister, but when you have Sonko sitting in parliament and has to approve every bill that gets out of there, I don't know how helpful it can be, considering the fact that, listen, Sonko is looking at elections coming in 2029, and he fears if Faye does so well, the people elevate him or praise him, he may not have a chance in 2029. So I don't know what a good prime minister may do when Sonko is sitting in parliament. Jocelyn, please.
Concerned about posing the question that way, because if we keep talking about African politics as a question of personalities, of X versus Y, and I'm the president, you the president, we will never progress.
That is
it's no longer a battle of ideas,
right?
Well, it's the reality, but that we need to correct. No, please don't cut me here. I mean, it is a reality, but we keep emphasizing and multiplying that reality, and that is not going to change. That's not the way we're going to be doing politics successfully in Africa. It's not a question of personality. Now, we need to come back to understand that the crisis in Senegal. We need to come back to actually the campaign that Sonko and Faye waged. They waged a campaign. They had ideas. They had things that they wanted to do. That's why people run for president. They don't run for president because I want to be John. Because I'm John, I want to be president. No, it's not me. It's what I want to do. It's my program. Okay, what was their program? Their program was to revive the economy of Senegal. Okay, revive the economy, and also to put the economy in an entrepreneurial society, an entrepreneurial economy, not the economy of the IMF, the economy of the big loans and anything like that. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, they wanted to deal with the franc CFA. They wanted to deal with that. And all of a sudden, they catch them, put them in jail, and then in jail over there, they cook in the pot and everything, cook everything, and say, okay, you guys come out now, they run as president. Okay, they run for the presidency, and surprise, they won the presidency, but on an inverted ticket. They switched it. So the question that an analyst asks, the question that I ask is, what happened that they switched the ticket? If you cannot answer that question, then we cannot discuss. We need to be able to answer that question. What happened that you and I, we campaign on ideas, we go to jail, we come back, and then they switch the ticket. What about Faye? So they switched the ticket, and then they got everybody, okay, and then they start the presidency. Now, a lot of things, what many people don't observe is that it's not just about Faye and Sonko. What is happening behind the scene? They have to nominate a Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister des Affaires étrangères. Who is she, Yasmin Faure? You see, where is she coming from? She's where is she coming from? So nobody studies that. And then who is the Minister of Defense? Jibril. Where is he coming from? What does he represent? Nobody says that. We only see Usman Sonko, and Faye. No, it's not just that.
Well,
It's
but
the whole apparatus that is.
Are the people of Senegal, and his party opposed to those appointments?
The people of, yes, they were, because those appointments, Yasmin Fall, okay, the Yasmin Fall, the Minister of Defense, and everybody behind Faye, when you see the nomination and when you see the government that is being prepared by Faye, you know that the program that they cook together, that they campaign for, is not going to be implemented. That's the thing.
If that is absolutely the truth, why did Sonko not protest and wait to be fired as prime minister?
Absolutely, he protested. Absolutely, he protested because he is now prime minister. Faye is the minister. I'm sure in their bunkers, in their rooms, they say, hey, you know, why do you do this? And they're fighting. And that's precisely why they couldn't understand each other, and then they had to separate. They don't just separate because that is so misleading. You guys are just saying this. Because when you say, well, Faye and Sonko, they don't get together, no. They don't get together because of differences in policies. That's the essence of the thing. So Faye and Sonko behind the scene that you and I don't see, they're fighting over there. They say, well, what, I don't want you to do this and everything. And it means something. So at the end now, Sonko Faye say, no, I cannot continue with you because I want to continue this way. And that's the rift. That's the rift right there. So
right,
if you want to know what's going on, we need to understand.
Let's bring in Kennedy to chip in on this.
Yes, I mean, I understand the questions, the very poignant questions that Jocelyn is asking with regards to the new team that is being constituted by Diomaye Faye, the personalities, what they believe, their background. That's why there's something like background check. You know, if you know somebody's background, it's very possible to project on what that person believes and what the person certainly would do. So that's one part of the equation right now. And I will be very cautious in analyzing or interpreting what is currently going on in Senegal right now. I'll be extremely cautious because it could be shifting sand. It could be something that we are not even remotely perceiving. It could be an attempt between the two on how to conserve power, because let's remember, there is always, and that's what the imperialists have always used against us. So if we come to the point where we can use that also against the imperialists, that's good. Because when you see the way the imperialists are outliving our expectation of them being the masters in our continent, then you understand that there's something deep that's going on there. Because at the same time that they control the system that is in place, the governing system, the imperialists also control the narrative within the opposition, or at least do everything to control the narrative within the opposition. So, is this not a strategic move from Sonko and Faye to make sure that they have full control of the narrative with regards to the politics in Senegal? That could remotely be possible, because I would want to see what will happen in the days ahead. Sonko has moved from the Prime Ministry to the National Assembly, which is a position of strategic importance, considering that he becomes the heir apparent in Senegal right now. In case of should anything happen, he becomes the president. Whereas when he was prime minister, that was not a possibility. So, are they projecting that things may turn sour? Do they all want to? Are they planning to go ballistic against the imperialists, which now might put Fai's life in danger? So, should Fai be attacked? Should the system crumble? The only way the system cannot crumble is that they have control of the credible alternative to Fai. And the only way to get control of the credible alternative to Fai is to be in charge of the apparatus that produces that credible alternative. So there is that part of the equation that I'm trying to juggle with. At the same time that I take the seriousness of analysis like the one that Professor Benaki has rightfully displayed in terms of, the dynamics that exist with the International Monetary Fund, what the expectation is. But again, I am one of those people that believe in absolute separation, absolute, what they call in French, rupture, la rupture totale, until we get to that point of rupture, as the Chinese did. The Chinese got into autarky, where there was some sort of isolationism. We should get back to that point, where we can shrink back to ourselves, close ourselves to the world, redefine ourselves as Africans, get different values. Because the IMF, the IMF, it's not going to help us in any way. Let's remember that Cameroon got introduced into the IMF with a structural adjustment program in 1987, and that was the worst thing that ever happened in Cameroon, because when they came in Cameroon, the structural adjustment program attacked social programs, education, healthcare, and did nothing to enhance manufacturing. Instead, they kind of like stretch our dependence on the Western world, the kind of economic structures that they put in place. And the IMF has always been doing that. They're not for us. They lend money to us at very faraminous interest rates that we have to pay back. So the IMF is the banker of the Western world. So they can never be for our interest. So when we're dealing with the IMF, it's a cancer that needs to be extirpated. That's what I believe. I believe in that. If we come to a point where we have to cut off completely with the IMF, go into isolationism, suffer it for some generations, so that maybe we'll spring up as China did. Those are some good examples that we can take. So, to conclude this Usman Fai issue, for me, it could be some strategic movement in anticipation of things that could happen.
But let me also look at this angle, and I pose it to all of you for just, please, try to get it on 50 seconds, each of you. Consider this. If Faye and Sonko can sit down and Faye repeat the promise, listen, I am handing over to you in 2029. Let us have a smooth administration because it is the same party. Do you see a collaborative government between parliament and the president, irrespective of what the IMF is asking for?
No,
Ben, let me start with you. 50 seconds, Ben.
Well, I think there's always going to be some tension. I think tension is good as long as the people, the good of the people is at the center of their work. I see that, but I don't know whether you want me just to add a few things to what was said before here. One is the ticket was switched. Sonko was the visible leader. Fai became the candidate. But we should bear in mind they were not elected on a passive ticket. Fai was an independent presidential candidate. So we have to keep that in mind. So there is a mutually beneficial thing there. If Fai had not become a candidate, if he had not been elected, Sonko will probably still be in prison or will still have his name blotted from having to participate in the election. And the government of Macky Sall would have put somebody there. So they are aware of that mutually beneficial move that Faye, as an independent presidential candidate, he won. Yes, the program that we're going to implement was PASTEP, which is revolutionary. We can praise that. It's Pan-Africanist, whatever that means. Does it mean nationalism? Does it mean continental nationalism? These are things to work out. But when you come to something like the CFA, yes, the commitment, even in Cameroon, we want to get rid of that money, but not so fast. That is why even Traore and Simi Goita, they have not been able to get rid of the CFA because it's easier said than done. Until you get the politics right and get your economy right, I would say don't go dancing with the CFA as your first move.
With the IMF, okay. All right, thank you. Jocelyn, please, 50 seconds. Let's call it a night.
Oh, yes. I would think that it's just going to be a waste of time. It is unfortunate that they're going to waste another 5 years fighting against each other. And another thing is, I didn't quite study the constitution of Senegal, and we should bear that in mind. That is certainly not the constitution of the United States, the great country we live in. So when we talk about Sonko from the position of force, of power, like you say, it's not a position of power. It's not the position of force. Okay, it's an African country. So the parliament doesn't have any power, just based on that. So if it was like the United States, then we could say that. We could say, yes, has a position of power, he can counterweight a balance of fight. But it's, and again, I apologize, I didn't quite study the constitution of Senegal, but I can take, my guts is telling me that is not a big deal. It's not a big constitution that gives the president of the parliament a lot of power. So effectively, it's Sonko who is going to be driving the ship over there. And again, and what I'm saying simply that it's going to be a waste of time because they're just going to be bickering each other, and then at the end of the day they're going to say, yeah, I'm looking for 2029, you're going to run, and then they're going to talk election after election after election. We want to talk about development, but they talk election, and that's a waste of time. That's not good for Africa.
All right, but talking development, election, creating the certainty of who takes over in 2029 is to create stability in the current government to be able to deliver. That's why I think that is important. But let me go to Kennedy for his take on this. 50 seconds, please.
Yes, without having much knowledge about the constitution of Senegal, but if I have to look at it from a point of relativity, I would think it probably might have some good points in terms of the balance of power. So where it curtails the power of the executive. If that were not the case, what is his name? The guy that was just before, Macky Sall. Macky Sall would have had his way. So let's remember that Macky Sall, his powers were checked from an institutional standpoint. So there was some counterbalance. So I know at one point it was the Constitutional Court or Supreme Court, I don't know how they call it there, but it was a court of law that curtailed him. And also at the level of parliament, he had some pushbacks. But there is something that is even telling right here, where you can see that the authority of the president is not so preponderant in Senegal as we might think. Even here in America, I might be tempted to say so. Donald Trump might even wield more power than Faye wields in Senegal, because you cannot, in the American Congress, pass a law right now that Donald Trump does not subscribe to. You see what I'm talking about? But when you go and see that 133 people, 133, all voted for Sonko, only one abstention, no vote against him in his bloc because the opposition boycotted. So it tells you that where was FI? So it means in that bloc that is in parliament, FI has no leverage there. That is even what is pushing me to analyze in the direction of a strategic move with a hidden attempt from these two people. Because the way it happened, the block and the cohesion, it's not, I mean, it's not something that is so common. In the midst of a crisis where you have somebody like a president that should use the authority of the president to impose on certain people.
Yeah. All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on. We have come to the end of this, and I look forward to having you back in the days ahead, sir. You have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And my apologies to Justin. It got heated.
All right. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this. I will be coming back here on Friday with another edition of News Talk. I hope you stay glued onto Africa Broadcasting Service Television. That is ABS. You have a great night out there.
Don't be left behind.
AI is changing everything. Are you ready? Learn AI with live instructors, not pre-recorded videos. Become a certified AI engineer. Position yourself for high-paying global opportunities.
Get internationally accredited certification and real career support.
We help you build your resume and connect you to job opportunities.
Classes have started, but you can still enroll. Enrollment ends on May 29th. Call or text 346-271-0711 to register today.
346-271-0711.